I was the backbone of the El Dorado County gold mining industry until well into the 20th century. You know, that's what people tell me. Now look, I was just a simple businessman. I was a family man, and I did believe in doing right by your community. But that didn't mean I couldn't make a little money doing it. Now, I came out here to California after mustering out of the Union Army, 6th Regiment, under the rank of bandmaster. You see, they saw me with a gun in my hand and decided, here's a trumpet. So, well, I'll tell you folks, the Civil War was not something to be wished upon your worst enemy. Now, when I got back to Maine, where I'm originally from, I had been working in the shipbuilding industry, but I didn't feel like that held anything for me anymore. So I set my sights on the fabled West, and I joined a wagon train heading out here to California, along with my wife, Ellen, and our 3 children, Eva, Frank, and Arthur. And we settled out here in Placerville. Now, one of the first things I did when we got here to Placerville was I purchased a small flour mill. And I didn't keep that flour mill for very long before the equipment burned out, and I was on the lookout for my next opportunity. And little did I know that that opportunity would be right next door. Now, the H.L. Hines Foundry, it was available for lease, and it was the only foundry in the vicinity. And I purchased it, and of course I renamed it the Henry Morey Foundry. And now, being the only foundry in the area was not a hardship for me, folks. Because if you needed any kind of equipment, if you needed any kind of part or anything imaginable, you either came to see me or you had to travel a fair distance. Automobiles weren't around then, folks. Sacramento was a good distance away, so I was who you came and saw. Now, I could design and I could fashion and forge any kind of equipment, any kind of part imaginable, anything from a small joist hanger to a part for a local bridge. And many of the Comstock mines around here have me to thank for some of their equipment, at least. Hell, I even cast wheels for the Southern Pacific Railroad. Now, folks, not to boast, but yes, I was quite a civic leader in my day. I chaired the committee to link the Sacramento and Placerville Railroad from Shingle Springs to Placerville. And I also served on the executive committee of the County Miners Association, and in 1870, I was elected agricultural commissioner. I was also in the Odd Fellows and the Freemasons. So I was a busy man. Now, something about that foundry that I purchased, folks, there was a particular young man who worked at that foundry making wheelbarrows for the local miners who would go on to make quite a big name for himself, along with his brother working in the automobile industry. And can any of you guess who that young man was? Studebaker. Yes, thank you. But, you know, that's a story for another day. We're here to talk about me. Oh, speaking of stories for another day, in 1873, the city of Placerville, folks, was broke. Now, the town had gotten itself into a number of binds around this time, and it found itself in quite a bit of debt. So, the answer to this, the sitting council at the time, folks, decided that there was only one course of action that they could take, and that was to resign en masse. So we didn't have any kind of governance then, any kind of leadership. So I got together with my friend A. Mearson and Judge Williams, and we pooled our funds, kept the basic expected services running for a while. We were able to do that. It was a good time for us. And around this time, I did have my home as well, right overlooking Main Street, Placerville, and I could look down upon the mine that I had, the foundry that I had. Now, that foundry was in close proximity to Hangtown Creek to power the plant, and it was very convenient because I could just walk right down from my home and check on my men. And that was before they put that darn freeway in there, don't get me started, kicking up all kinds of confounded dust and noise, and you can imagine. But it was a good time. Oh, I did talk about that, didn't I? Oh, let me talk about another one of my great passions. Now, folks, as I did mention before, I was the Union Army 6th Regimental Bandmaster. Now, I loved music. It was a big part of my life, and I'd never wanted to let it go. My wife Ellen and I, we sang in the choir at the Methodist Episcopal Church over here, and all of our kids learned to sing and play. And the trumpet that I played is still on display down there on the museum there on Main Street. You can see it. And in 1870, one of the things I did, because I looked around at some of these rough and ready fellers, these miners, you know, they needed some culture, they needed some music, they needed something to soothe their souls, keep them from those gambling homes and other houses of ill repute. So in 1870, I founded the Placerville Philharmonic Society. And they even let me conduct the band once in a while. Now we played everywhere, any place they'd have us, picnics, weddings, even funerals, everywhere. And that was a great time, but in 1908, my beloved Ellen would pass away. And around this time, I was getting on in my years, and I had my son Frank now running the foundry for me day to day. My son Arthur and my beloved daughter Eva were now living out in Oakland, raising families of their own, and this would be time I would spend traveling further west and spend time with my grandchildren. Just picnics and plenty of love and laughter and, of course, music. And some years later, in 1921, I would pass away in their company, and my body was transported right back here to this cemetery where I was laid to rest, right over here in the family plot, next to my beloved Ellen and my parents. Oh, and I thank you folks for coming on out here and listening to me just ramble on. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I have. I thank you folks.
Thank you.